And the recording is going. So now you guys can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Veronica. We are so glad to be here today talking about building the future of B Corps and talking about how we can go from education to really be talking about like employment within the labor force. So I'm Erin Allgood. I use the she, her, hers pronouns. I am the faculty co-faculty mentor for the B Impact Clinic at the University of New Hampshire. And I'm joined by my amazing colleague, Dr. Fiona Wilson as well. So Fiona, I'll let you go ahead and give an introduction of yourself.
That sounds great. Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. I'm Fiona Wilson, and I am the director of the Sustainability Institute here at the University of New Hampshire, and the university's Deputy Chief Sustainability Officer. So as Erin said, we are really excited to host this session today. And it's really based on a big premise, and that premise is that universities and colleges, wherever you happen to be, in the Boston area, in New England, or anywhere around the country, that really universities and colleges are a fantastic but vastly underutilized resource by the B Corp community. So what we really want to do today is talk a little bit more about how we think universities and colleges can really be a partner and a collaborator with you all in not only building your own B Corps, but also really building this B Corp movement around nationally and around the world. So Erin is going to share just a few quick slides I'm going to share in terms of framing. But while she's doing that, let me just say, the University of New Hampshire, we're the state's flagship public university. We are a land, space, and sea grant university. And what that really means is for 150 years, this idea of kind of contributing to the common good, the public good, has really been deeply woven into our DNA. And so about 25 years ago now, we started to really think about sustainability and how we as a university could contribute to what we now call the Sustainable Development Goals. I think universities have a tremendous, not just opportunity, but really an obligation, right, to contribute to the world around us. We're really proud as a university to be a national leader in sustainability. I think it's a really well kept secret here in New England, but we were the first university in the country to have a sustainability institute of this kind. We were only the third university in the country to get the platinum rating for STARS, which is very similar to the B impact assessment. It's how it measures how we implement sustainability across our university. And we're still today only one of 10 universities in the country that has that highest rating of sustainability. We also are thinking a lot about new models of education as we think about the challenges in the world in front of us, the climate crisis, racial injustice. I could go on. We really are thinking about what are the new models of education that can really make an impact and contribute solutions to those big challenges. You go to the next slide, please, Erin. So I want to talk a little bit about how and why universities are really stepping up to help scale the B Corp movement. So I'm going to share a few pieces of sort of background data just by way of framing. So number one, capitalism is a system in crisis, right? Particularly when we think about Gen Z, millennials as well, but really about Gen Z, the next generation of our workforce and leaders. Capitalism is definitely a system in crisis, right? And that's really a big issue when it comes to the pipeline for talent development. This is just some statistics from the Gallup study in 2018. Americans aged 18 to 29 are really trending in the wrong direction when it comes to seeing capitalism as a positive force. And a pretty big decline just in a couple of years. Next slide, Erin. And then here's just a similar study just to support that. This is from the Deloitte Millennials survey also in 2018. Again, you can see here that millennials and Gen Z kind of feels this even more strongly that, businesses in general, not B Corps, but businesses in general are not committed to helping improve society, that businesses don't behave in an ethical manner, et cetera, et cetera. So number one, capitalism is a sort of system in crisis, and that doesn't help with the talent pipeline. So next slide, Erin. The good news is that this generation of students, some of the students you're going to hear from today in this session, that students are not only deeply aware of the crises and the issues they're inheriting in the world, but they are a generation that does not want to sit on the sidelines. They absolutely see themselves as using their educations and using their future careers as a force for good in the world. You can see here just some statistics. You know, the number one criterion for career success is having a positive impact, and making a high level of salary is kind of way down there in the list. Next slide, Erin. Similarly, another study, you know, really sees that fully 3/4 of this generation see themselves as leaders who will improve the world's social or environmental challenges. Next slide, Erin. We also see demand for kind of new kinds of education from employers, companies like all of you. This is a study that was done a few years ago, but you can see here just a tremendous gap, right? Employers are really looking for college grads to make sure that students have those real world skills, things like project management, problem solving, innovation, collaboration in diverse teams. They're the kinds of, you know, we often call them soft skills, which I think is a mistake, but they're the kinds of skills that employers are really looking for. But rarely do they see university graduates coming out prepared with those skills. So there's a gap there in terms of what universities are doing and what employers are looking for. Next slide, Erin. And that's really where things, where universities can innovate. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing at UNH. But we know that this idea of experiential learning, and we sometimes call it immersive learning or hands-on learning, that for students that got out of the classroom, got out of their comfort zone, got out of the context they know, and engaged with local businesses, did consulting projects, internships, other things, that they are 2.5 times almost more likely to be successful once they graduate. So we know that there are models of education that can really work, that can help students develop the skills, but can also be contributing to the local business community at the same time. Next slide, Erin. So I wanted just to let you know about a national, actually it's a global movement. It's called B Academics. I was on the founding board of B Academics. It's now over 1,500 faculty around the world strong, over 600 institutions in 52 countries. And it's really sort of, it's very similar to the Be Local movement. It's a global community of like-minded educators who are really interested in helping advance the B Corp movement. So I encourage you to sort of check out more about what B Academics are doing. But in particular, we wanted just to share a little bit more, next slide, Erin, about this model of B Impact teams. So it was first started, the first team was started down in North Carolina State by our colleague Jessica. And since then, she's kindly kind of inspired and shared that model with a number of other universities around the country. And we now all have different variations, but essentially all doing the same thing. We're using the B Impact assessment as a key tool. We're training students in the B Impact assessment, and then we're matching them with local companies to help those companies assess, go through the BIA, improve their score, and in many cases helping companies get certified or recertified. So we're happy to tell you more about the UNH program. If you're interested, we can connect offline. Also encourage you to check out these similar programs at other universities around the country, depending on where you are. Next slide, Erin. So at UNH, we are running a B Impact Clinic. We've been doing it for about 3 years now. It comes out of our Changemaker collaborative. It's housed at the Sustainability Institute at UNH. And we're really an entity that's really focused on bringing together students, together with the business community, nonprofits and government, to really advance positive change for the good of all. So we're really about building a skill set where we're thinking about what are the skills that students are going to need for this next decade, 20, 30 years, but also how do we help build the courage and the confidence through real world experiences that really can help advance sustainability in the community. Next slide, Erin. So that's where our B Impact Clinic comes in. As I said, we've been running this now for about 3 years. It's a pretty cool program. We've worked with some of the companies that you can see here on the screen. And students they meet twice a week. They're in small teams of 4 students. And we've worked now with almost 100 students, over 20 clients, and it's a lot of wonderful time that's being contributed to the business community. So I will pause there and hand over to Erin, who is going to take us into the next part of the agenda.
Thank you so much, Fiona. I really appreciate that. And we wanted to be able to give you that just overview of, really how universities can serve as a resource in helping partner with all of you in your B Corp journeys. And the other part of what we wanted to cover today as well is give you an opportunity to hear from some of our current students and one of our recent grads, just to get their perspective on what they're looking for in employers, what are some of the turnoffs when they're looking to partner, to go into, look for an employer, and then also just give you an opportunity to hear a little bit more about their background and what interested them. So I'm really excited to introduce all of you to Jill Durkin, Colleen Speer, and Jill Howard. And I'm going to hand it over to them to just share a little bit about themselves and share a little bit about what excites them about B Corps and what brought and some of the experiences that they've had. So I'm going to hand it over to, let's go to Jill Durkin first.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jill. I am a rising senior at UNH. I have now had the incredible opportunity to be in the B Impact Clinic at UNH for 3 semesters. So I worked with 3 incredible companies. They're all very, very different. And that experience has led me to my current fellowship that I'm in right now with Prime Buckles. And I am working now on their ESG and DEI report methods. And it has also just given me such an incredible insight into what a B Corp, and that's kind of how I've gotten involved in sustainability in general. So I just feel very grateful to the program for kind of showing me the path to what I'm really passionate about. Did that answer all of your questions, Erin?
I think so. That's great. And let's go over to Colleen Speer now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen Speer. I am graduating from UNH this fall. I've been in the B Impact Clinic for a few different semesters, originally as a student consultant, and now I work as a program assistant on the sort of behind the scenes part of it. I've also, since working in the clinic, continued to work with those companies that I was able to be on a team for in different summer internship capacities. And I study specifically social innovation and sustainability in business, which B Impact Clinic and the people I meet through that and the programs I get to do through that are a really, really essential part of my major. So I'm super excited to be here today.
Thank you, Colleen. All right, Jill Howard.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I think I'm unmuted. Okay. My name is Jill Howard. I graduated from UNH in 2019. And when I was there in my senior year, the beginning, first semester of my senior year, I helped Fiona start the B Impact Clinic. And so it was part of the first kind of pilot group of working with a company through the B Impact assessment. And then the second semester, I was there, transitioned to a student mentor role as we brought on some more companies and more students. And since graduating, I have taken a job at Allgood Deloitte, which is the parent company of Hannaford and Stop and Shop and a bunch of other food retailers. And I work on sustainability reporting. So ESG reporting and reporting to benchmarks and externally, but also internal reporting on all of our health and sustainability and food waste, carbon emissions metrics. So for me, going through the B Impact Clinic was, on the one hand, I think in being in college, a really cool way for me to see that there's companies that are doing the right thing and they're being measured and they're being transparent about it. And it was really eye-opening to see the ways that a different form of business could take place. And then kind of moving into my career, it was actually really helpful, one, in terms of communication and confidence with working with big companies, that I did that while I was at college. But in the role that I'm in now, since I do a lot of reporting and data collection, going through the B Impact assessment was really, really helpful for me in terms of understanding the benchmarks of what good sustainability practices look like for a company, how to gather and manage large sets of data. So running through the clinic when I was in college was definitely one of the most informative experiences for the job that I have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much, Jill. And so I wanted to just, like play off of what you were just talking about and throw this over to Colleen and Jill Durkin as well, is just how has those experiences in college helped you in to gain the skills that you need and influence the career path that you're going to take? So yeah, go ahead, Jill.
Okay, so for me, I didn't have a lot of confidence my first semester working in such a professional environment. And I think that the biggest thing that semester that I learned was just professional communication and figuring out how to set up meetings and be productive in those meetings and send professional communication via email. So I think that that's the thing that was the most different about the clinic versus the traditional classroom experience. And then through my experience as a student consultant and then as a peer mentor, I'm now in the job that I'm in today because of the clinic, and I feel like I'm competent and very confident in that job because of my experience with the clinic. So I just don't think that I wouldn't have this job that I have right now without it, and I wouldn't feel as confident and be as experienced without it.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Colleen.
Yeah, I always think it's funny the first couple of weeks in the clinic, anyone who's first doing it for their first time, the biggest learning curve they have is like, how do I write a consulting agreement? Because it is so difficult, especially for students who have never seen a consulting agreement before. They don't know what to ask about. And we provide templates and things, but learning how to write that is always like one more skill to add. And because we're working with the B Impact assessment, and that covers so much of what a company does, it is, the most holistic, comprehensive, like, here's how you run a sustainable business lesson that I can get. And because I can do the clinic multiple semesters, I get it for like, an apparel company and then a grocery store company and then a marketing company. I get in this huge range, which most of the time in class we're learning like one subject, one very isolated, this is how you do it. And we're not learning it in a sustainability lens at all. That's kind of like an extra reading for homework, as opposed to the additional things. So I think that perspective is both very hard to get outside the clinic, but has been really essential, especially when I go and I talk to other companies about what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd love to learn from each of you just what the B Corp movement means to you and what excites you about it and interests you. Since you're all the future of the B Corp movement. Jill Howard, I'll have you start.
I think for me, what's most exciting is that it's a tool for transparency and accountability when it comes to sustainability for businesses. I think greenwashing is obviously so pervasive, and to me, it's really important and exciting to know that there are companies that are being held accountable and that we can trust when we see a B Corp logo or we see other types of certifications. I think that's really great to see. And then also, what I especially experienced when going through the B Impact Clinic is it's really cool to see that there is a tool out there that companies can start from day one, not really knowing, okay, they want to be better for the world, but how do you even do that? And you can very concretely go through the assessment and see, in the governance section, this is what I should be doing, how I set up my board. And when I think about my impact on the environment, this is exactly what I should be looking at. And so I think, I guess that's also kind of like my personality type in the way I like to work, very detailed, but I think that's a really exciting takeaway. And I don't see that in any other parts of the business world, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jill.
Yeah, I think for me, it's an option. I very much frequently I've heard, if you want to go into business, which is where my skill sets and interests are, and if you want to like do something good with your life, you have to go in two completely different directions, which was very discouraging. But B Corps and the fact that I've had access to the B Corp movement at UNH has allowed me to continue putting my interests and my skill sets and all of my motivations in the same place, which is very, very exciting. And sort of similar to what Jill Howard was saying, it's very like action focused, and it's action that I can see happening now and actually work with businesses on. It's a path forward addressing a lot of issues that I think because, you know, in the clinic, we might work with a company that maybe only has 20 employees. When we're making a decision with our client teams, we can see that impact very, very quickly, or we can actually see where that matters, which is so exciting to be a part of, but also gives me a lot of hope that, you know, I can go out and get actual work done and then talk to the people who it's affecting or who have more ideas to keep working on things.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Jill Durkin.
Yeah, this was a little bit going off what Colleen was talking about, but I think just being a finance major, I don't see a lot of places, or I didn't at the beginning of my college experience, a lot of places where I could apply that in a way that was meaningful and would make a positive impact on the world. It just kind of seems like you graduate and you become an investment banker and you just do that. And I think that the B Corp movement is just really inspiring to business students in general. Like I know so many people who have been able to do the sustainability dual major at UNH, which is an incredible opportunity. But I think that kind of lens of looking at business has made me appreciate my major so much more, and it makes me more excited to like go to class, because I feel like, okay, I'm learning this right now, and then I can go take it and apply it and make a positive change somewhere. And that's really what makes me excited to like have a job and go and do it. Like I don't think that I could just go be an investment banker anymore. So I don't know. There are great things about that, but I just think for me, having this kind of purpose and having the like visual understanding that there are businesses out there making major positive impacts on the world, like is so inspiring. And I'm like so happy that I found out about the B Impact Clinic and learned about B Corps, because I like didn't know anything about that when I started college, and it's kind of completely transformed my whole college experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And so I'm also just wondering, I think folks who are here today are probably wondering as well, is just what are you looking for in your prospective employers? And what are the things you're not looking for in prospective employers as well? And Jill Howard, I know that's a little different for you because you currently you're graduated and employed. So it'd be great for you to share just what you know, the things that you like about the role that you're in.
Yeah, I think so. What I really appreciate, talking, kind of going back to what I was talking about with my last answer about transparency and accountability, I think what I really appreciate about the role I'm in, and we're not a B Corp, but we do follow many different ESG benchmarks that I think are kind of similar in the certifications and the scorings that they give. And for me, that's something, as the one that's working on it, and seeing the way that our governance is structured and the way that our CEO and our CFO are handling this, that for me is really makes me excited about where I'm working and proud about where I'm working, because I've been in meetings with the CEO and the CFO where they talk about how important this is to them and how it is really a part of their day-to-day thinking. And so I think seeing not just kind of like the greenwashing and the just putting out a great statement or having a nice policy on the website, but really seeing the changes and initiatives they're taking internally has been really great for me to see. And I would also say too, what I really appreciate is that it's in that whole process of making it more accountable and more concrete, is we're really filtering sustainability throughout our entire company. So I work on the health and sustainability team for our global support organization, but I also work really closely with our finance team. We work with HR, we work with product integrity and sourcing. And I think that's what's also really heartening about the company, is that we're pulling in different people, we're teaching them about sustainability and how it can be a part of their day-to-day job, especially for people who might not have ever even considered that before. And so I think that's what makes me feel like it's an employer that really cares about this, and somewhere where I feel good about the work I'm doing because I feel like it's meaningful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I feel like off of the greenwashing thing, it's just so important to be able to see that a company is actually walking the walk, and they didn't just like hire someone to be like a sustainability figurehead and they're not actually doing anything. So I don't know how, it's hard to be able to tell this before you start working there, but like you said, the fact that you're able to sit down with the CEO of the company and that they really care about the work that you're doing, like that is kind of what I'm looking for in an employer. And And I think that being a B Corp is such an easy way to tell that you know that they're going to be a good employer because they went through this whole process that certified that they're a good employer. So I just think that even if they're not a B Corp, there are so many companies that are doing amazing things and they're working towards sustainability in different ways. But I just think that the B Corp certification itself is a great indicator.
Yeah, kind of jumping on this, sort of like Jill Durkin said, like it's very hard to tell externally, but I think that there are a lot of companies that try and position their histories very well if they are just joining the conversation, or they try to make excuses for why they're coming to the table now. And honest, kind of like Jill Howard said, like transparency. As long as you're willing to have the conversation, I don't necessarily care that you're just starting now. I want to just have the conversation with you. So that's all. It is the most exciting place to be.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I'm going to hand it over to Fiona now, and we're going to do a little Q&A.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Jill and Colleen, for those great insights. And, just to sort of wrap up this piece of the agenda, I hope it is abundantly clear from these sort of three amazing role models, but I think they are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Gen Z and college students today. These are not outliers. I mean, well, they are, because they're our favorite students and we're super proud of them. But there's literally thousands and thousands more students like this, right? Students of this generation are making it abundantly clear that they want to work for, buy from, invest in companies that are really aligned with their values, right? They're not willing to really sort of check their values at the door anymore. And so for any of us as employers thinking about a pipeline of talent, we really have to be sort of thinking about that. I think hopefully what this panel has already sort of has also sort of illustrated, I think, is one of my sort of beliefs, is that college students are vastly more capable than many people give them credit for, right? We expect a lot of the students in the B Impact Clinic. We treat them like professionals. We ask them to meet very high standards for working with their clients, but they unfailingly rise to the challenge, right? I think we often overlook the capacity and the talents of college students. And so just sort of going back to my opening remarks, we really see that colleges and universities can be an amazing resource for helping to scale the B Corp movement. And so we want to encourage all of you to think about how you can engage colleges and universities in your area. Before we kind of go into a facilitated sort of brainstorming conversation with all of you, we wanted just to open it up for any quick kind of clarifying questions and answers. Anything you wanted to ask Jill or Colleen or Jill, I know they would be willing and happy to answer that. So let's just pause for a moment, see if anybody has any questions. You can just, we're a small enough group, you can just raise your hand and we'll have you unmute yourself. Kelly, if you want to just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes. Hi, this is great. I've actually heard quite a bit about the clinic just through the grapevine. And so hearing from the students about what it's all about is fantastic. And so I'm curious, I actually just went through my first recertification myself, and the BIA is overwhelming and, covers so vast of a majority of topics. How do you, where do you start with the students in consulting with other companies? I saw Prime Buckholz on the list and we worked closely with them. And so we kind of had a chat about them working with the clinic. And so I'm just curious, how do you get the students to a point where they feel comfortable consulting with businesses like Prime Buckholz or anyone else on the BIA, and how to kind of get themselves through that?
Yeah, well, I think that's a multifaceted answer, but I'll sort of take a shot in there, and you can join in too. So I think number one is, we have a really rigorous interview and kind of selection process, and actually the students who are the peer mentors, so they're students who have been through the clinic at least once before. It's actually a paid role. They are stipended. They actually help us with the screening of applicants and interviewing students. So I think sort of it becomes sort of a virtuous circle, if you like. We get really amazing students like Jill and Colleen, and they help recruit other students to come into the clinic. So that's number one. Number two, I think the B impact assessment is an amazing teaching tool, right? I mean, that was sort of part of the genius of our colleague Jessica Thomas at NC State, who started this program down there, that the B impact assessment in many ways is the teaching tool, right? We do a lot of surrounding that with helping them understand about the B Corp movement. We talk a lot about professional communications, about project management. We teach them a project management software called Trello. We do a lot of those kind of skills, but the B impact assessment is a really powerful teacher because it, as you know from going through it, there's a lot of kind of explain this and examples and resources. I'd say the third thing is it really is the peer mentors. So nobody is doing this. I mean, when Jill Howard first started doing this with me, she was the guinea pig and she didn't have a peer mentor. But as we've built the clinic, every team has an experienced peer mentor that can really help a new student into the clinic really navigate quickly. So again, it sort of becomes that sort of self-fulfilling, system, if you like. I don't know if you'd add anything to that, Erin.
I'll just say too, I mean, I think that the peer mentors that we have just are absolutely amazing. And so they also get to learn, and as they're working with me, they will lift up any questions that they have as they're going throughout this process, because inevitably what some of the things that'll come up are, how do I phrase this email so that it doesn't sound too passive aggressive? Oops, it's my timer just to make sure that we move to the next section. But so they'll lift up something like, how do I phrase this? And so they are doing so much of this work themselves, and but they're using the resources that are given to them as well. So they're using me as a resource. We also have business advisors who work with them as well, who can help to just, be another professional person to be able to touch base with on various things. So they have a lot of resources available. And as Fiona was saying, the impact assessment as well is just a really excellent teacher in and of itself. And so we give them like a very loose structure in which they can go and have this experience, which I think is also one of the big keys to this as well, is that they're so self-directed throughout this whole process. And as Fiona was saying earlier as well, these students are just so impressive, and they have so much capacity, and I learn so much from them as well. So we are constantly in this just amazing, learning, sandbox almost, where we get to test some things, try some things, and experiment, but also we're doing it in a way that has enough structure to it so that it's not scary by any means, and it is tried and true, this process. And we've got amazing clients as well who are willing to step into it with us, and they also tell us time and time again that they get an amazing experience out of this as well, because these students really just are high caliber.
Thanks, Erin. I think, I don't know, is it Adji? Adji has your hands up as well. Just please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Sure. My name is Age.
Sorry.
I work specifically with low income and first generation college students. So they're a very interesting community of students that I'm very passionate about. And it was interesting to sort of hear the students talking about their experience of writing their first contract for how much, I'm assuming there's a contract, but is there a monetary amount that's involved? I'm interested in knowing if students get paid for their work, and or how do you make sure that students who don't have the resources that allow for the time to do a project like this have an opportunity to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Adj. We pay our peer mentors. They get a stipend for the semester. We believe, just really strongly in making sure that we're paying them for their labor. And we don't charge the companies any money to participate, though we do have generous, companies who will give, will make a donation to the program, which we're super grateful for. And so I'm super keen on making sure that that the students do have access to this as well. So we make sure that we're recruiting across the campus, and we're not just bringing in students from the business school who just by the very nature of being in the business school have a lot of these opportunities that are possible to them. So we're making sure we're bringing in students from every different college across campus, and I'm really intentional about making sure we're recruiting diverse students as well from all sorts of different backgrounds, because I recognize that this is such an important program, and it gives students such an edge and a foot in the door with a lot of these different companies, and it's an amazing thing to put on their LinkedIn and their resume. And I want to make sure that that it's equitable, and that we're bringing in students from, that we're not just making sure that it's the white students who are getting those opportunities. So that's something that's super top of mind for me as we're going through this. And I would say it's a continual process for us to make sure that we're bringing folks in.
So the other thing, just to add to that, so this does carry academic credits. So students get 2 academic credits for this, so equivalent of half a course, and so they can count those towards their graduation requirements. So we don't like doing programs that are basically free labor,
Right.
because that does end up making it only the students who have the privilege of being able to do those things. So this is fully part of their academic degree and part of graduation requirements.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I was going to say about that as well is that we're, throughout our interview process, and Colleen was just really key in creating this amazing interview process that the students conduct themselves as well. And we've done a lot of work around creating a rubric, essentially. And so that we're not necessarily just always bringing in the extroverted kids, and we're making sure that we're catering and bringing folks in from all sorts of different, just different abilities, all sorts of different backgrounds, and so that we can have a really well-rounded cohort every semester.
So Erin,
Does that answer the question, Adj?
Yes,
Erin,
for
we should
sure.
probably move to the
Yeah.
facilitated dialogue. Yeah.
So the last thing that we wanted to do, just with our time together with all of you, is to ask you and just facilitate a dialogue for the last couple of minutes we have around what are some of the top skills that are needed within your workplaces, just to hear what you're looking for, and if you can share some of the gaps that you're seeing as well. And you can feel free to drop that into the chat or unmute and speak also. And I can always put Emily Gutman on the spot because she's an amazing friend of the program and was our program consultant this past semester and the semester before that. So Emily, what are you seeing? What are the skills you're seeing in your role that are needed?
Thank you so much for putting me on the spot, Erin. I really appreciate that. No, but this is actually a great question. And it's something I've been thinking a lot about as I work in HR in my role, not necessarily on recruiting, but thinking about recently going through the recruiting process myself, and that the folks we're looking for are those who can really understand the larger picture about where both society and environmental issues come into play with the intersection of business and the role that business plays in some of those, and not necessarily having the solutions or the answers, but kind of the knowledge base to know that there is a connection there, and that they don't run in parallel. Business doesn't run over here and our social and environmental issues and solutions run over here. It's that there is an interconnectedness. And I think just that mindset is something that we would really look for in someone we would recruit. And for some background, I do currently work at a B Corp. And so that's helpful connection there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.
So Kelly's saying in chat, data management for CSR reporting, such a huge challenge. Accurately collect, manage, and look. Yeah, and you're probably not seeing that in most college graduates, I'm assuming.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Kelly. What other skills, folks, are you're like looking for when you're looking to hire folks in, and maybe where some of those gaps are?
We do have some hand raises.
Oh, thank you. I
Nice.
can't see them.
Yeah.
No worries.
Oh, Jason
Yeah,
Phillips.
Jason, go ahead.
Hey, Jason, nice to see
Hi,
you.
you too. Yeah, we had a great student through the Social Innovation Challenge, Devin Geyer, and I was just impressed to see her mature over the course of her internship with us. It was a great experience. Some of the things that I see as challenges for us oftentimes is analytical capabilities. Just simply people that can connect the dots versus transactional type of processes. I mean, that's a real challenge. I mean, oftentimes, especially somebody new to the organization, they come in and they can push buttons and enter data, but being able to understand it and even get to the point where they can interpret it and make business cases for decisions is where we see, I think oftentimes we see some of the gaps, or at least having folks that are they're tunnel vision. They see things in one way and they can't see things in the periphery.
That's so interesting, right? Because I think that's unfortunately the way that colleges and universities have been set up for so many, hundreds of years, literally. We teach in silos. And so you end up graduating students who think in silos. But I think you're really speaking to, one of the things that the B impact assessment can really do is that kind of wholly rounded sort of view of the business. Yeah, that's great. And John Round from the Richards Groups put in chat, the ability to be self-directed, self-managed. Yeah, no question. Communication skills, work in a team setting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very much what we're hoping to do with this program. We just have a couple of minutes left. I just thought it might be fun, Erin, just in closing, just to have both Katie Rasco, but also Gabby Sott just say a couple of words, because they're both students who've been in the clinic. And Gabby, do you want to just say kind of what your experience is and what you're doing this summer? Because that obviously is a outgrowth of the B Impact Clinic.
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Gabby Sott. I'm a dual major in sustainability and international business and economics. I just started with the B Corp clinic this past semester. So I actually worked with Ben Marine aside with Katie Rasco, who you got to hear from. She was my peer mentor, but I had a fabulous semester. We actually ended up bringing Dorigo from 76 points to 111 points, which was amazing. Such a huge accomplishment for us. But next semester, well, this summer actually, I'm working with Kakori, which was one of our companies this past semester. So I got connected through the B Impact Clinic for that. And I'm working with her for her sustainability efforts for the app, and also working with sales and marketing. And this next semester, I'll be a peer mentor in the clinic again, which I'm really excited about. And I bet Katie can talk a little bit more about the peer mentoring. But yeah, I have loved being a part of the sustainability efforts at UNH. It's really opened my eyes to so many fields that I did not even consider beforehand. So thank you for introducing me to the program.
Yeah, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Katie. I am dual majoring in sustainability and marketing. And like Gabby said, we worked together last semester with Dorigo Collective. I'm headed into my 4th semester with the clinic, and I would say it's probably been my most formative experience throughout the last 3 years of my college experience. And it's really just opened the door for me within the B Corp community, but also to get more involved with the Sustainability Institute as a whole and get more involved with the programs they offer. Right now, I'm actually doing a sustainability fellowship with Timberland, which is already set. It's only been a week and I'm already loving every second of it. And I'm getting to meet so many incredible people with so much passion for sustainability. So I definitely want to thank Erin and Fiona for exposing me to all these different incredible programs and all of these amazing people in the community.
Thanks so much,
Thank you so
Katie.
much, Katie and Gabby. It's so nice to see both of your faces.
So I think we're just about out of time, but we hope this was useful. Erin and I would be thrilled to talk to anybody if you want to learn more about how you can engage at UNH with our B Impact Clinic or our other programs, but we're also happy to connect you to B academics, to programs around the country, or just to sort of, offer advice on if you have a college or university in your local area and want some advice on how you can better connect with them and really harness them as a resource in helping grow your own company, but also scaling this B Corp movement. We would love to do that.
Yeah. And I dropped my email in the chat, so you can reach out to me and we can, start that conversation. But thank you all so very, very much. We're just so glad to be with all of you today and share a little bit about our program, about universities as a resource, and introduce you to these amazing students and recent grads. So thank you.
Thanks, Jill.